welcome to Final Fantasy XIII, Plot Holes Unlimited, because I just realized something, guys. So, as far as the story wants us to believe, Sazh is dead, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
But reminder, what is the mission that we're doing? Supposedly, as far as it's been reported, both of their friends in captivity are being put on public execution. Now, I may be stupid, but last I checked, you can't exactly have a public execution of a man who's already dead, now can you?
At least he admits it. I mean, you're right.
I can bend slightly a stretch and say that it's a part of, Cocoon's propaganda machine and saying that, even if Sazh was dead, as in, doing a staging, to put it very morbidly, Jova, you can actually hang a dead person and make it look like you're killing them.
True, I get that, but honestly, why not just execute another lessee or whatnot? I don't know, I mean, and again, why make it both of them when one of them's already dead? Wouldn't just the one just be fine? Okay, granted, what you do say does have a point, but I do feel that it is a bit of a stretch.
It's all about being a honey trap for Lightning and the others, because aside from Fang, the other three, know about... the other four, know about... Sorry, I cannot do math today. The other three know about Sazh and Vanille, both of them, So there might be some emotional connection. And that's not to mention, unfortunately, there's something else that, me, you, and Shira and Pedro know already in hindsight. That is probably the reason why, they're probably also doing this. But it doesn't become apparent until, I think, at least next part.
Can I complain about something real quick? Because it's about what's going on screen. I hate the screen skill tree. It's so needlessly complicated.
It's a poor man's fear dream.
And that's the thing, that as complicated as it appears, it's actually linear as all hell.
Yeah, basically, you might why not just do a Final Fantasy IV does and just have the guy level up and give him bonuses? Seriously, I'm literally just holding A until my skill points run out. I'm not doing anything.
Doing it across the map and choosing your directions occasionally, the keyword being occasionally, like you're on a path. Isn't it fun?
I believe Tales of Xillia actually they did this concept still better without being a complete clone of the Spear.
In Xillia you can actually choose which abilities to get first. I mean, it's not much.
But my point being, there is still an alternative of just simply leveling up and getting standard. That in itself is not inherently a wrong thing, but I do believe a system similar to this can be done right.
Sure.
Can I just point out the irony that despite this game supposedly trying to be the 7 killer, it was ironically a 7 remake that actually perfected a lot of the mechanics from 13, like the stagger system and even the Crystarium, essentially. Oh, sure, it's not called the Crystarium there, but as Pedro pointed out, it's pretty much the Crystarium.
It is.
Just, done well.
Anyway, yes, Pedro?
Okay. This is not a development aspect to it, it's just more of a consequence of it, but there is actually one thing that I didn't bring up. But in the previous two parts, because of the constant script/localization changes, the English actors recorded the entirety of their voice acting, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but a total of 5 times. What we are hearing here in the game...
Scripts, you mean?
Well, remember, Jova, every time the script would completely change, obviously we have to bring back the actors to re-record everything, because now the dialogue they recorded is not going to be in the game anymore. So basically what you're hearing here, Jova, is the 5th time these actors have come in to record the entire game. The 5th time.
Suddenly now Lightning's voice actor sounding way less interested makes even more sense now.
Although Georgia still managed to perform her orgasm.
So basically, to get back to the joke you made in part 2, where Sazh asked Lightning a question, Lightning would just stay silent, and you said, and I quote, "Ali, we're recording." Maybe that's just it, Dwez. Maybe Ali just got tired of recording this game at this point.
Honestly, at this point now, it really is only a matter of time until we get a what happened video of this game.
I think definitely.
I think she was also voicing a character in Naruto and that at the time as well.
There was also, remember, Dwaves, also around this time, also she voiced the Palutena in Kid Icarus Uprising.
Yeah, that one till 3 years after this, though.
Well,
Wait,
remember,
wasn't it released in around 2012 or something?
Yeah, it came out 2012.
It was 2013.
so she probably no. Pretty
Uprising.
sure it's
Uprising
yeah.
was 2012. I remember it.
Yeah, Uprising was that. So in that case, it wouldn't be too out of bounds to suggest that she may have been recording lines for that around the same time.
Okay,
too.
and both Hair Trey Baker and Scott Bullock are in it, but I forgot if anyone else from this game are in that. Probably a couple too.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Can you imagine what it must have been like for the actors? What's his name again? It's Jack Fletcher, right?
Fletcher, yeah.
Jack, this is like the 5th time we're doing this. I just.
Hey,
I'm sorry,
man.
Georgia. I haven't heard you loud enough. Do it again.
But Jack, I've been doing this for like 6 months.
Okay, for intents and purposes, I'm just joking. I'm not accusing Jack to be aroused or anything by Georgia's performance.
I just realized something. Considering the five times they've recorded this, how many in total have Georgia Van Kuberg made oohs and ahs and ahs?
Somewhere buried in the Square Enix vault are file audios of Georgia Vancouver's orgasmic sounds.
Yeah, I can imagine whoever was in charge of hiring the actors and that calling the actors and that. I mean, hi Troy. Listen, that game you've already recorded new dialogue four times over. We need you again, man. Sorry. Come on, man.
It's insane.
Come on, man. I've been doing anime. Come on, man. I've been doing nothing but this and anime for the past 6 months. Well, Troy, I'm sorry. They keep changing the story. Well, maybe it's not a good story then.
Honestly, I could see an entire documentary being made.
Jova. It's not about whether or not this game is going to get a what happened. It's only a matter of time because the development history of this game begs for a what happened video to be made of it.
Like seriously, it's not every day I see a game development that ticks literally just about every single major box when it comes to game development troubles, but we've got it all. Terrible game development, not knowing what the game was supposed to be, localization troubles up the wazoo, script changes on both ends, not even knowing what the game was going to be about properly, delusions of grandeur, hoping that this would usurp a previous game, but just increasing the want for said game even more.
Well, see, the thing is, when it comes to that last point, Jova, I can at the very least, that doesn't justify anything in the final part. I can at the very least understand the frustration on their part on that regard, because...
Oh, I can understand it. What I'm saying is, it's still a pinnacle of crap game development, where, again, they have this big idea, but the exact opposite just ends up occurring. And mind you, I'm not entirely against them for wanting to do something new. Granted, I still do think it was a dick move on Square's move to really keep tickling people about the 7 remake without capitulating on it, but I can understand wanting to try and create something that would usurp the 7 idea for a remake. The problem is just, look at the outcome. Just look at the outcome. Hindsight is 2020, but that don't exactly change what happened.
Yeah, okay, here's one thing. There have been times in games, anything really, where even if there's a large vocal fan wanting of something, sometimes the people who are in charge of making it just don't have any good ideas for it. And if you don't make it. But that's perfectly fine. If you end up just making something you don't want to do just because you feel like you have to, odds are you're going to end up with something shit. That's going to be... That'll probably be even more disappointing for a fandom than not getting the thing at all.
Yeah, because...
Let's actually just go into a bit of the whole creator versus businessman mindset. Now, as easy as it would be to just vilify the businessmen, the guys in suits who dictate what to do for sake of sales... you do need a balance between them and creators for some reason here and there. Creators, yes, it's good that creators get to do what they want to do. However, sometimes in a creator mindset, they might do something that evidently pisses off the fan base just because, this is what they wanted to do. And while sure, their intent is nice for them to have. Sometimes it's not always going to be what's best for the franchise. Case in point, Metroid Other M here. That was technically Sakamoto's creative vision that wasn't meddled with, and well...
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing is...
Sometimes you do need the businessman mindset to tell you, look, I know you want to do this, but this will really tick off the fan base and hurt us in the sales. And yes, as cynical as it is to be worried about sales, sales are still important to, helping keeping franchises alive, essentially.
It's one of those things where, like what Jova said, but at the same time, it's one of those where, I do not agree with the whole one, because like Brenda said in his reviews, like this game constantly always feels like it's trying to prove something to everybody, and that's very damaging.
Yeah.
The fact that the game is so insecure of itself, like
Pretty much, it's constantly yelling, "Look at me, I'm better than 7 Remake." Sorry, Pedro, go on.
But at the same time, I can also understand why it would be frustrating for not necessarily the executives, the creators themselves, Toriyama, Kitase, the actual creators, the actual directors, and people who actually make these games, not even just the company executive, the actual creators themselves. Like, it can be very frustrating when you want to move on, because like you want to expand your horizons, you want to explore your own creativity, and all people want is just you to keep remixing your old hits over and over. It can be very frustrating to developers.
Jesus Christ, we're still on this menu.
It's okay. That just have some stuff to say. See, the thing is, Jova. Look at it this way, Jova. Imagine you write a symphony and that symphony becomes a complete massive hit. Brilliant, 10 out of 10, critical acclaim, beloved by the music community everywhere. 10 years later, you're trying to create more new symphonies, but all your fan base keeps telling you, please make a new remix of that symphony, please.
Oh, by the way, Pedro, it wasn't what you were saying. It was just the menu on screen. It was like, oh wow, we're still here.
I know, but that's it. I'm taking advantage of this. To.
If I may,
go on.
I could totally get companies who maybe just don't feel like they have this. Here's the problem, though. A lot of them don't just do the simple thing of saying to the fan base, hey guys, we don't have the time, the place, or the team, or the people necessary to make a new product. Like, look at Capcom. If they had just mentioned that to the Mega Man fan base during that big let's call it the Mega Man hiatus. If they had explained it to them, sure, there might have been some fans who were still unhappy with that, but people would have been a lot more understanding if they just came up front and said it. The problem is that
did.
Yeah.
Just not in the best way possible.
Are you referring to the whole way they announced that, Legends 3 didn't happen because the fans didn't support it enough? Yeah,
there is truth to that, but it's like, that's...
Let me put it like this. Yes, technically, problem was the fans weren't aware that they needed to support the dev room enough for Legends 3, and that's just what really left a bad taste. Like,
I'm trying to come up with,
they eventually told us when it was too late. My point goes back to this with Square. Square, I'm not going to act like everyone would have been understanding, but just come out and say... Give actually a legit reason why you don't want to do the 7 remake at this point, instead of just jerking people around with this. Because just saying nothing leaves people to
that's a thing, Jova.
Speculate.
That's a thing, Jova. Believe it or not, there was one point where they did say something akin to, "We will only make a Final Fantasy 7 remake when we were able to make an original game that's as good as 7."
Yeah, I remember them doing a statement like that.
Yeah.
That one gave a bit of mixed messages because, again, making something as big as 7 on its own kind of seemed like, the mythical golden goose of gaming for them overall.
I'm trying to
say
think
it would have
of
been impossible, but it would have also depended on what Square considered bigger.
We'll have something to say about later because now we're finally boarding the Palamecia.
Yeah.
All right, then. Let's get to work.
See that it allowed us to get all this shit out of the way.
Yep.
A parting gift to our rotting government. Take those SciComm guys apart.
Who voices this guy?
I think it's Andrea Sogliuzzo, but let me check just to be sure. Also, hi, Fang.
Vanille's in there. I'm sure she's fine. Vanille's tougher than I could ever be.
Sure, yeah, let's go with that, Hope.
Are you scared?
Yeah, I'm terrified. But I'll be okay.
Well, Hope, you know what they say. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's facing that fear.
I also love how they had that POV shot from Mofa, but it was clearly above his actual height.
So, okay, to give Hope credit, he does become a better character now. Problem, he is barely focused on now.
I'm sorry, Joe, I have to comment on that line that that Bucky just said. I know he has a name, but I don't care. He's Bucky. I love that line. All right, enough of the bonding. Yeah, enough with the bonding, because, you know, there's been so much character development in this game, obviously. It's just...
I know, like, I mean, that's the frustrating thing about this game. Even when the characters start to get better, then we barely have time to focus on their better interactions.
Dun, 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 dun.
And by the way, that I know that it might appear because of his act, but this guy is actually not bald. He has actually hair.
There you go, Dwebs. This is the Emperor of the game.
Is there? I forget. Is there a render of him without the hat on?
No, but his artwork and his actual mod, as you can see, showcase that his hair actually go from his back.
Identification code.
You let me land this bird, or I'll crash her into your ass.
Oh my God.
Jack, stop piloting things in other games. Go back to yours.
Oh my! You know. I wouldn't lie. It would be funny if Jack pulled a Stitch and just showed up in other games randomly just to hijack.
I'm not a purple ninja. I've seen enough of the plot of Stranger Pirates to tell you that the trailers did not give enough justice to how much Jack doesn't give a single shit about everything.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
No, trust me. Oh, trust me, Dej. That game opens with without a doubt the most violent, gory scene in the history of the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah.
And again, I'll just say this. I have a hard time believing that they didn't intend for it to be that silly. Like, I know Square can be crazy, but Strangers of Paradise seems to be going off the ends of the earth.
Jova, you underestimate Nomura. I mean, he will put anything in and try his hardest to make you take it seriously.
Alright, if I recall correctly, it's happening now.
Oh my God, we're in the egg carrier from Sonic 06.
Again, the moment they board, they get spotted. Again, so much for stealth.
But well, remember, Teo, our plan was to just charge in for the front anyway.
No, that is true. But if I recall correctly, either in-game or one of us had suggested that what they were trying to do was to be as much in secrecy as possible in the previous part.
Well, that's because there was actually literally a point where Sid, admittedly, in the gameplay overfield, so maybe that was segregated.
I'm trying to...
But regardless, he was giving dialogue that stated that the plan would be that they would distract them while we snuck on board.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Pedro?
I'm trying to think of like an example, like in terms of another JRPG, like Jova was saying, just come out and say it that you're not gonna make it because reason X or Y. I'm trying to think of a JRPG. The only one that I can think of is when Hino explained why they're not making Dark Cloud free, but that's I guess
that was at least an explanation.
Well, okay, yes, he explained. But the explanation amounts to just, well, it's a Sony IP. It's not up to us to decide that. So, which is true, but it's not. So I guess technically it's not the same as the Mega Man hiatus. I think
there's a statement that Katsuhiro Arada made in regard to Xenosaga. He actually did try to push for an HD remaster of that trilogy, but then he had to say that the IR ups at Bandai Namco had told him, "We don't believe it's gonna sell enough to justify making it." Simple as that. And he said, "We understand, but we are asking you guys to stop actually telling us for the time being."
See, that is probably one of the best ways to handle a situation like that.
Considering how Arada tends to be not at the same level with Hiki Kamiya, but a bit crass on his own, that was actually a very polite statement.
I know, right?
You're talking about the Xenosaga stuff?
No, Katsuya
Oh,
Dead of Tech.
I actually-
essentially, that ever since the days of Project Rose One, he has become kind of like a spokesperson, a mediator between the actual company, Japanese of Bandai Namco, and the Western fan base, essentially.
Because he last year when someone asked if there's any chance of Xenosaga getting a remaster or something like that, he did say they did survey it out, but there wasn't.
That's literally what I just said, Pedro.
Anyway, yes, Pedro.
I actually just remembered another example from Square themselves, actually.
Go on.
And remember, despite not being involved in the new one that's on PS4 and arcades, Nomura was the creator producer for the first two Dissidia games, the ones on the PSP. And there was one point, actually, I do remember that I even talked about it on SSMB in the Lightning Saga topic. Theo remembers that. That apparently, because there were some people. There was actually an interview where they asked Nomura if they were going to make a third Dissidia game, and he did say back then, obviously that eventually changed. Eventually, that situation changed. But he did say that at that point in time, they didn't really have any particularly good ideas to make one, and they wouldn't want to make one just for the hell of it. So that I can understand. Like if aside from rehashing what the previous one did, you don't have any other things to do. Sure, that's a perfectly I will argue it's a perfectly justifiable reason not to make a third Dissidia. Just eventually that changed because eventually they got some good ideas for what to do with a third one. But if at the time they had no good ideas that would justify making the game, then yeah, that I can understand that, because just making a third game that's basically just the second game again. Sure, I can understand not wanting to do that.
That's also the fact that Square did not have the mentality, at least back then, of managing to make too many updated versions of a game in the same way Capcom usually does with its fighting games, like the different version of Street Fighter 2. So they believe that with Dodecim, they did pick also what the PSP was capable of, and he also did not help that the PSP, despite everything, was not selling as much, because also thanks to piracy. So essentially they counted the losses that they kind of had at the moment. That I could understand. You can argue it was more of a PR statement than anything, but it still made sense for what he wanted to say. But more on that, actually no, we're getting a casting later. There's the thing also, Jova. What you said in regards to developers coming out on reasons X, Y, and Z on why they believe they cannot make another title is on one hand understandable but also logical, but on the other it also depends on two factors: the reputation that the company has and potentially the entitlement of both the company and the fan. Because what's stopping literally everyone just saying at that kind of statement, "You're lying and we don't believe you"?
All right. Like you said, it does take into factor a company's reputation. Okay,
because
now
at that point,
evidently,
Jova, they might as well not say anything.
well, again, Tio, let's remember, it's a case-by-case basis. If Capcom had just come clean about the whole Legends thing properly at the right time, mind you, at that time, their reputation wasn't as iffy as it is now, so people would probably be more willing to trust them, essentially. And mind you, part of that is on the company themselves. That being said, just continuing the lies only makes their reputation worse. Like, sure, yeah, maybe people may not believe them, but actually telling the truth, and mind you, in a smart way and not, a dumb way, mind you, which would make PR officials just roll around in chaos with how bad it is. Like, actually telling the truth will always be should be something that will help. Now, that being said, again, it does mean that sometimes there's a bit of a road to go in earning back the people's trust, especially if you screw up badly. Like, well, let's go with an easy one. Konami, essentially. They have had a long history of just jerking their fans around here and there, so that, yeah, even if they did start telling the truth, people would be in their very good rights to, go, well, pretty much press X to doubt the entire time.
The boy who cried wolf.
Pretty much, yeah. Now, if they do eventually start consistently telling the truth, that could help make things better. Like, granted, regardless of whether or not people may not believe them or not, it's up to the company to handle things smartly. And as we've seen in a lot of game development history, lying has rarely ever worked in the long run because it's always eventually come back to bite the company in the rear end. And big time. Looking at you, Activision, looking at you, Ubisoft, looking at you, EA, and your many lawsuits.
Okay, I also want to make a distinction. I'm mostly talking about the actual quality of a game and not the actual working condition of the physical people responsible for that.
No. That applies too, hence why I'm... Okay, that's more like why I went after EA more, because their lawsuits have tied in a lot more with their games. Oh, mind you, they still do have their fair share of lawsuits with how crappily they treat their employees, but since we were talking about the qualities of the games, that's why I mentioned more so EA when it comes to all the lawsuits, because, oh boy!
Let's put in the context of the, since this game and everything, let's put in the context of the Square, at least of yearly. Actually, no, because now we're getting the code cutscene, I think. Actually, no, we're actually reprising to Vanille.
Yes.
Oh, goody! And so there's Vanille. All alone, and oh gee, what a shot!
Alright,
Sazh is alive!
Oh my god! I could have never seen this coming!
I am shocked.
Oh, by the way, Shirai, pay attention because in this part, I have a treat for you. I made a joke that I think you're gonna really appreciate.
So he fired the gun, and...
He missed very badly.
How did you do that?
Okay, no, okay.
Now
To be
I
fair,
know what he actually did, but I was just running with the joke.
sure, he doesn't have the balls to do it.
He has a child.
He needs desperate.
No, well, yeah, but as far as he knows, Shiroi, he's lost forever.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking about the bird.
Oh.
Yeah, the bird.
To an extent, I suppose.
Someone's gonna look after the bird.
Yes,
Really?
especially.
I don't trust Vanille to do it.
No, come on. How can a face like that be deceitful?
So yeah,
Do I need to go through the lists right now?
I guess this is where Jill about decided, okay, that you guys had enough fun, now I'm gonna arrest you for real.
And
Okay.
watch what she does in this cutscene.
Also, the boob shot when she walked in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of her outfit.
Yeah, that's the thing,
The game
Shiroi.
really likes the angles,
She also
though.
has an energy cravat.
Shiroi, Toriyama is a huge appreciator of the female figure, clearly.
We'll erect a memorial in Eden and put his crystal on display.
Wow. You're...
He's a little boy.
As the son of a pulseless sea, he would have lived in shame and misery.
Okay, so do you just get off being this cruel, Jill?
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
again, that's the idea of characterization.
Remember-
being so into the propaganda machine of
Remember-
the moon that she rebels because of her position.
Remember, Joe, the Final Fantasy VII killer. They're trying to make her the new Scarlet, basically.
Basically,
Now, if only she had as good a resolution as Scarlet did, but we'll get to that later.
Also, to answer quickly your question, that Rick there is voiced by Josh Robert Thompson. He voiced a lot of things, but
Alright.
everything is
So-
really Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep.
Alright, so you
question: why did she carry Sazh out in a coffin? Why couldn't she have just handcuffed him and
is
put him in a
actually
hood?
good question.
That's because, Jova, the game wanted you to really think that Sazh was dead.
Again,
That's a
that-
good meta answer, Pedro. Now answer me this story-wise. Why did she do that? I get it.
Simple, Jova. It makes no sense. Literally, there is no possible logical reason why would she do that.
I've got a question actually.
Go on.
Yes.
How many times have scenes ended with a character falling unconscious?
I mean,
couple actually.
This
Quite a
is
few, actually.
Is this 007 Legends before 007 Legends?
Don't you see, Dwebs? This game is actually avant-garde. It understands the deep
hold on, this is important.
Dante Alighieri.
yeah. So yeah, Vanille is from Pulse, and she was chosen by the Pulse Fal'Cie to be an enemy of Cocoon.
So she's actually over 100 years old.
Yeah, she's actually been crystallized. Yeah, Faye and Faye.
The anime girl who looks younger than she actually is by like hundreds of
So
years.
yeah,
Well,
so
Where have I heard that before?
so yeah, they
I mean,
after fulfilling.
They-
So yeah, they actually woke up from their long century crystal stasis in the day one. All right, enjoy.
also in terms of physical age, to be fair, she is older than 18. In this case, so at the very least, they aren't doing the whole. She looks 12, but is really 1,000.
Pedro.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, why not?
Okay. Pedro,
Deji, look at it. Look at what this is.
I know. I know.
Okay, are we gonna have problems by using this?
No, we're not Shiroi. Believe it or not, Shiroi.
You.
Believe it or not, Shiroi. The content ID didn't detect a single thing.
Huh.
That's the thing. YouTube just seems to be more about, violence and whatnot as opposed to the naughty bits.
No, I mean the music, Jova. For those who
Sounds
don't,
too good,
for those who don't know, that was Moon Prism Power.
Moon,
Yeah, specifically Moon Prism Power, the original one. That's the most iconic one, basically.
And yeah, ironically enough, they're both of their crystallized forms of wearing the vestibule of Anima, the ones that actually got digged up, and that's why they ended up on Cocoon.
Trust me, Dej.
So it turns out that Fang had lost her memory. However, Vanille hadn't.
Trust
What?
me. Trust me. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Basically, because Vanille doesn't want to hurt anyone from Cocoon anymore, she decides to just pretend that she lost her memory, and so she doesn't have to fulfill the focus. And that is why.
What eventually led to Fang insisting that they pull the attack, which is what led to Dodge eventually getting turned into a Fal'Cie.
Not to mention, it was because of them not being able to fulfill their proper focus that the Pulse Fal'Cie had to find new pawns to make their thing, and that's why our main characters here were branded to begin with. So there you go. The entire plot is Vanille's fault.
Which I guess should justify her being the narrator of the whole thing, but like he mentioned, it's still messy, and it would have helped if each chapter had that corresponding character be the narrator. Now the code.
Oh god, this is wait. Is it?
Here we go. I think this may be.
No,
it.
no, not yet. It's in the next part, actually.
But the whole thing about
Code Green sounds more like where everything's okay now.
Oh, you think that's
it's gonna get worse.
Trust me, Liz. You think that's rich? Wait till you see the codes and the way it's presented. But you'll see.
Now, the character actually lying and to an extent gaslighting the rest of the party because they believe that telling the truth would actually damage things more until things bubble up and explode. I'll flip in because it was said before. Is a reference technically to Final Fantasy VII as well, but hold on.
Hold on, I want to finish this. She wants to escape from a fate that could lead to more suffering for everyone, but her twisting of the truth has the opposite effect. It leads Fang into rash actions that have devastating consequences for both Dash and Sarah, which of course, by extension, the entire party. So, and by the way, Fang's
the one who got slapped and not Vanille. I mean, yeah, Fang came up with the dumb plan, but that was only because she lost her memory and had no other options. So, ironically, it should have been Vanille that lightning slapped instead of Fang.
See, on paper, this wouldn't necessarily be a problem. The problem is that never at any point does Vanille in any way get any repercussions for us. I'm not kidding. When we say Vanille,
Vanille calls herself out, but nobody else really.
No. Vanille blames herself, yes, but nobody in the party ever at any point. Okay, see, look. Lightning slapped Fang for it, as we saw. But Vanille herself, she gets 0. In fact, all she gets from in the entire party when they find her is just a pat on the back. There's going to be a point later on where she tries to apologize to Snow for all the suffering she caused him, and his reaction is, and I quote, whatever, it's in the past. Look, she gets no come up. She is the sole ruiner of all of these people's lives, and all she gets for it is a pat on the back.
How many?
She's cute. That's what.
Okay, how many plots that have been critically acclaimed got its start for one of the main characters starts it?
Sorry. What do you mean that specifically?
Like, have there been any plots that got a great reception compared to this one, but also only got started because it was one of the main characters' faults?
Okay, one thing to keep in mind, Wibbs. Okay, one thing to keep in mind, Wibbs, reception in that case is relative because, well, the idea is that story actually executes it well. This one just executed it poorly. Because, again, so we finally understand why Vanille is apparently the narrator, yet again, if anyone was supposed to have been the main character in all this, it was Lightning, but honestly, if you want to really be honest, Vanille should probably be the main lead character, given how most of this is told from her perspective. She's essentially the driving force behind this whole plot, and without really spoiling, she's gonna end up solving the plot better than Lightning could have ever have hoped to in the end.
Yeah.
I can think of one, Dips. Okay. Sorry, go on.
You give me a chance.
No, go on.
Well, that's why I asked you guys, because do you have anything? Because, I mean, for some reason, and I'm pretty sure it's wrong, for some reason 7 keeps coming into me mind.
Okay, let me put this...
Well, because this game is constantly trying to be the next 7.
Okay, let me put it. I can think of one aside from that one. Okay, without spoiling it for anybody who hasn't seen it, because not everybody has seen it. Okay, Memento actually is technically a plot that only happens because of the fault of a specific person. The thing
doesn't Memento also sort of have its plot out of order like this game too, now that I think about it?
Well, yeah, but it's done way better, I can assure you. But the point is, without spoiling anybody, by the time you finish the game, the final twist is that the entire game is somebody else's fault. But the thing is, Memento is a character study of said person. So of course, it's going to be a big revelatory moment that suddenly puts a new perspective on the entire movie. So it's intentional. You know, it's like, and the movie portrays his actions as horrible. It's not or anything. It's not. He doesn't get any comeuppance, but it's because it's secretly a villain story. That's all I'll say for now. So in here, however, Vanille is never at any point supposed to come across as a villain. She's supposed to come across as a tragic figure. And that would be fine on paper. The problem is that there's zero comeuppance, there's zero atonement on her part. There's zero karma for the audience. She basically destroyed all these people's lives, and she gets little to no repercussions for it. She just...
Well, I guess there is that one thing.
Yeah.
The end.
Yes, you can make an argument that she does repay them in the end, Jova. I know what you're talking about, but by that point, I will argue just too little, too late. The plot is...
I do agree that by that point, like, well, if you're waiting for that, oh boy, you're gonna be waiting for quite a while.
See, maybe it could have worked if the plot earned it, but it doesn't. But again, we'll be able to talk about that when we get to the ending. See you for the next part, everybody.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.